at least, okay. Well, some people said no, but enough people said yes. I think I can continue. Um, I want to begin, first of all, before we start our share itself, appropriately with a little tefillah. This is tefillah, obviously, for the matzav in which we're in, that actually was composed by the Rabbanut. Yehi ratzon milfanecha ha'el ne'eman avarachamim harofei l'chol tachluei amo Yisrael ata rofei ne'eman tishlach refuah aruka rov chesed v'chanina v'chemla l'kol hacholim shenidbaku b'chemla azot ana Hashem yamuna rachamecha al kol yoshvei tevel v'al kol amcha Yisrael amod na mikisei hadin v'shei bal kisei rachamim v'tikanes lifnim misharat hadin v'tibatel me'aleinu kol gzerot kashot v'ra'ot Ugzor aleinu gzerot tovot yeshuot v'nechamot leman rachamecha v'tikra roa gzar dinenu v'ikru lefanecha zechuyotenu huma ezratalanu ufadenu leman chastecha l'shemana lekol chinatenu ki ata shomea tefillat kol peh baruch shomea tefillah. All right, we tonight are going to explore what I think is a crucial message of Pesach, and really begins quite simply. What is so important about matzah? This holiday seems to revolve so much around chametz umatzah. It's the icon, of course, of Pesach. When you want to represent Pesach, it's done by a matzah. And this seems strange to me. I don't really understand it. Yes, the fact that indeed we took the matzah out of Egypt, we couldn't wait, we had to leave, so we snatched it up, terem yachmatz, and we left bizrizut, we got out of Egypt. Okay, very nice, but that's really a sidelight of the whole story. This is the story of the liberation of the Jewish people. This is one of the most dramatic moments in human history, that we are exiting slavery like no one ever did before. No one ever escaped Egypt. We were somehow, with Hashem's help, able to do it. And we experienced all of these miracles. And that's what we should be focusing on. This whole concentration on matzah seems to me very, very strange. And that's what I want to explore with you tonight. Why is there such an emphasis on matzah? Chametz and matzah, but mostly on matzah. And since normally around our table, the youngest is reading the Manishtana, as it's been said, it's going to be pretty difficult to say this year, Manishtana halayla hazeh. It's pretty unusual, and a lot has changed. But I want to add, just to, in the spirit of the four questions, to strengthen and emphasize this mystery of why the matzah is so important. So one of the questions is the name of the holiday. We refer to this holiday as Zman Cherutenu when we daven, and it has many names, Chodesh Aviv, but the only name which the Torah uses for this holiday is Chag HaMatzot. Why? Why don't we call it, the holiday of liberation, Chag HaCherut? That would seem to me to be so much more comprehensive. Why do we call it Chag HaMatzot? Obviously, the Torah is telling us, focus on the matzah. There's something there that I want you to pick up on. Another question. At the Seder, first of all, remember that these Sedarim are different than before when we had the Korban Pesach. When we had the Korban Pesach, so the last thing that we did was we ate the Afikomen. The Afikomen, as the Mishnah at the end of Psachim tells us, you eat the Afikomen, as the Chacham points out, Ein maftirin achar Pesach Afikomen. You do that so the taste of the Korban Pesach will linger with you all night long. Makes sense. But we don't have a Korban Pesach today. Today, unfortunately, we don't have a Beit HaMikdash. We don't have a Korban Pesach. But we still have an Afikomen. And we still have to eat the Afikomen. So Chazal had to think, okay, we don't have Korban Pesach. Let's pick something else to eat at the end of our meal that in place of the Korban Pesach. So what did they choose? Oh my God, what original idea. Another piece of matzah. We've been eating matzah the whole meal. And then now that's all you could think of? That you're going to also have another piece of matzah, and that will be the taste that lingers with you? That's going to represent the Korban Pesach? They couldn't have thought of something more creative, but they chose a matzah. Clearly, they were sending a message. This is the central item of the Seder and of Pesach. Finally, one other question, and this is something that is a classic question, but we ask it every year. The Jewish people, Bnei Israel, they took the matzah, they baked the matzah ostensibly instead of bread because they didn't have time. They were in a rush. They had to leave. They couldn't wait for it to rise. So they left. But what kind of a rush were they in? 2 weeks before this event, they were told explicitly that you're going to leave Egypt. You're going to do the Korban Pesach on the 14th of Nisan. You're going to leave on the 15th. And they had 2 weeks warning. Isn't that enough time to bake? It's not like God said to them the last second, okay, guys, we're leaving, quick, hurry up, grab something to eat. And they grabbed the matzah before it had a chance to rise. They had plenty of time for it to rise. So what's going on there? The whole concept of matzah, as people think, oh, they had no time to bake their bread and let it rise, so they grabbed it, but they had plenty of time. Okay, so these are questions all that focus on the idea of what is so crucial and important about matzah. Now, there have been many, many suggestions and many perushim on matzah and what it stands for. Some want to say that, and quite correctly, that the matzah represents excitement. In other words, they were so excited to leave and follow Hashem wherever he said to go that they grabbed the matzah and they were just in this state of, excitement and anxious to be with God. And that's what the matzah represents. And there is indeed, something to that. V'lo yachlu lehitmamea. They couldn't wait. There is a theme, a love or marriage theme to the Shalosh Regalim. Pesach represents our courtship with Hashem. When we first met God, and we were the young bride, and Hashem was the groom, and we followed him, lechtech acharai, be'eretz lo zeruah, wherever he went, like a bride follows a groom, and that was the period of courtship. And then comes Shavuot, and that is the marriage, the mountain that's lifted over our heads. That's the chuppah, and the Sefer Torah, or the 10 Commandments, that's the ketubah. So that's the marriage. And what is Sukkot? Sukkot is the yichud room. That's where we go after the chuppah to be alone with each other. It's a lovely theme. And in that theme, Pesach represents the courtship, and that's the time of the most excitement, that as we began our journey with Hashem and our journey to Eretz Yisrael and to receive the Torah. So that's an intense moment in our relationship, and that's one idea of the matzah, what that represents, doing it quickly, because quickness, speed always is synonymous with excitement. When you want to do something, you do it quickly. When you win the lotto, Bezrat Hashem, you run to cash in your lottery ticket or get a birthday present. Others want to give another idea that the matzah represents humility because it's low, whereas bread represents gava, or pride, or conceit. And we're trying to show, as we thank Hashem and as we go through the Seder, the Haggadah, we're always expressing our thanks, and we're humble and appreciative of what Hashem did for us. So that's another idea. It's still a third idea of the matzah, is that it has this dual nature, because, you know, the items on the Seder plate are going to represent either liberation, cherut, or they're going to represent servitude, avdut. And obviously, the mei melach, the salt water, that's symbol of slavery. And of course, the maror, the charosed, we're not quite sure about. It's a little bit of each. And then, of course, you know, you have items that the arba kosot, you have to, you know, those are, of course, symbolic of our freedom, our liberation, our royal bearing. So how do we know what the matzah is? Which is it? Is it a symbol of liberation because we were so quick to leave with Hashem? It was kind of like a flag that we held up and said, you know, this is our banner, that we believe in God, we have faith. Or is it a symbol of slavery because it's lechem oni, it's the poor bread, it's what the slaves ate? So the matzah, in a sense, has two sides to it. Which is it, though, in the end? Well, the way to know that is, do we lean or don't we lean when we eat the matzah? Because leaning is a sign of royalty, a sign of freedom, liberation, as opposed to not leaning when we eat those things that are symbols of avdut. And the answer is we do lean, indicating that the matzah is indeed a symbol of liberation, but many point to it as saying it's expressive of the Jewish experience, which has both. We have tragedy, we have triumph. We have servitude, we have liberation. We have Holocaust, we have the state of Israel. That's a matzah. It has two sides to it. So these are all good ideas. You can speak about them at your own Seder. But I want to express something else. I want to suggest that there is a deeper significance to the matzah that has very, very pervasive messages for all of Jewish life. I want to suggest, you know, Pesach is the first Jewish holiday. It comes in the first of the Hebrew months in Nisan. And much of what happens on Pesach is intended at this very first holiday to teach us something that we will take into the entire year. And I want to suggest that one of the most important things, or maybe the most important thing about the matzah, is that it is Hashem training us. God is trying to teach us discipline. By holding back and not letting the dough rise and become bread. And even though we love bread, we love lachmaniot, we love pita, that just everybody, bread is the staff of life, that, you know, the more it rises, the thicker it is, the higher it is, the more we like it. But here we're told, hold back. No, you're not going to let it rise. I'm giving you a commandment. You will stop within 18 minutes and you will not let that dough rise, and you will take it as is, as matzah. Matzah is a symbol of discipline. It is trying to teach us that there are times when we have to control and curb our natural instincts and desires, because God says differently. God says, ad kan v'lo yoter. You will do until here, but no more. And this is the training for virtually all the mitzvot of the Torah, if you think about it. They're all based upon that system of discipline. You take, for example, Shabbat. Our natural tendency might be that, well, if we're earning a living, for those who are still employed, well, we're going to continue working on Shabbat as well. Why not? It's a chance to earn more money. It's a chance to be around the family and do all of these things that, maybe we look forward to do all week. But Hashem says, no, you're going to he's created a different day. You're going to make a difference, and you're going to discipline yourself that many of the things you might normally do that other religions of the world and other cultures do, you're not going to do that. You're going to hold back. It's true about kashrut. You want to eat anything and everything. After all, you see the commercials, everything looks good, but you are told, no, you can't. You have to have a discipline. You have to be able to stop where I tell you to stop. And even when I give you something to eat and say, this is kosher, not so fast, make a bracha. And when you're done, make a bracha achron afterwards. It's discipline. Certainly this is true about intimate relationships that you may have an urge and a desire to enter into, but you have to be disciplined. And Hashem says, ad kan v'lo yoter. You can go so far, but no further. You have to be able to know when to stop. Essentially, where human nature halts, that's where Hashem takes over and says, even if that is your inclination and your urge and your desire, it's going to have to conform with what I tell you. That's the training. In a sense, we all become like soldiers who are told, here's what you can do and here's what you can't do. And that's a matzah. And that's exactly what matzah is coming to teach us. By the way, the same thing applies to chametz. We have such a strict rule about chametz that it's worse than treif. It's asur b'mashu, the slightest amount of chametz, if you eat it, if you own it on Pesach, you get benefit from it, it's a very, very serious offense. Why? Again, this idea of being told, you have to discipline yourself. You're used to eating this all year long, but I'm telling you there's going to come 7 or 8 days when you're not going to be able to do what you normally do, despite your inclination. I told a true story about when I was rabbi in Dallas, and a woman called me and said, Rabbi, I've got a product here, and I'd like to know if it's a chametz sticker product. And I said to her, well, I don't know that product, but read me the ingredients. Let's start there. She began to read me the ingredients, and I stopped her and I said, excuse me, ma'am, but this is a treif product. She goes, I know it's treif. I don't keep kosher, but I want to make sure there's no chametz in it. And I thought about that, and it's one of those, do we worship Hashem or the halacha? And then afterwards I said, you know what, there is something to that, because people who are not careful and not strict, perhaps all year long, when it comes to Pesach, when it comes to chametz, they are. So chametz and matzah, really the same idea of this training, so that we have the discipline all year long to be able to follow the mitzvot, because all of them are like that. This is why not only do we focus on the matzah, which is really a metaphor. Matzah is a metaphor for the discipline and the obedience and the loyalty we have to Hashem and to the Torah. And this is why when Hashem told the people, you're going to be baking matzah, yes, they had 2 weeks, but Hashem said, no, when you bake the matzah, you're going to dafka make it in a way that shows you could have let it rise more, but you stopped. That's what a matzah is. And it's intrinsically something that indicates your discipline. In the story of the Egel Hazav, very, very fascinating, in Parshat Kitisa. So the Jews commit this sin, which is one of the, unfortunately, one of the most serious of the sins, not the most, Chet HaMeraglim was worse, but the sin of the Egel Hazav was not good. And Moshe Rabbeinu comes down from the mountain, and he doesn't quite understand what's going on. He's got to look down, and he sees this all kinds of wild rituals going on, and dancing and parading around the Egel Hazav, the golden calf. And he's trying to understand what's going on here. What did my people do? And the pasuk says, and people may read this, and you have to really not be thinking when you see this pasuk and you don't understand what it's saying. Vayar Moshe et ha'am, Moshe sees the nation, ki faruahu, that it is farua. Farua can be defined as exposed. That's how the Art Scroll translates it. Or it could also be wild, harua. And then it says, ki firao aharon, because Aaron, in his helping them make the golden calf, had allowed them to engage in either this revealing or this wildness. But the Torah obviously is sending us a message. The word faroah is the same exact letters as paro. So Moshe, what he's really saying, and parua as well, Fei Resh Ayin, and paro even more with the hay at the end. So what Moshe is saying by using these words, he's saying, you're acting just like you're in Egypt. In Egypt, there are no limits. There are no strictures. You do what you want to do. There's no limit to what the people can do in their wild abandon. And he's saying, I see you just let it all go. Let it all hang out. You've lost your discipline. You've lost your sense of self-control. And that's what Moshe sees. And he smashes the luchot, because the luchot are the symbol, the ultimate, along with matzah perhaps, the ultimate symbol of control, of discipline. Here's what you can do. Kabed et avicha v'et imecha, shmor et yom HaShabbat. And here's what you can't do. Lo tirtzach, lo tinaf. These are about limits and discipline. So that's what Moshe understood. And he understood, I have a lot of work to do to teach the people that this is what defines a Jew, that we have discipline, we have limits, we obviously are normal human beings. As Woody Allen was once asked, what religion are you? And he said, Jewish, with an explanation. Jewish means there is an explanation that we're like everybody else, but on the other hand, we have a discipline. And that's what keeps us together as a people. I want to suggest that this idea of the matzah, and it's being representative not only of Pesach, not only of the Seder, but of really Jewish life, of keeping to a discipline. This is something which, unfortunately, we are experiencing this right now in a whole different way with the corona crisis, because we are having to maintain a discipline to control ourselves. Yes, we want to be with our grandchildren for Seder, but we can't be, because the doctors say no, Misrad HaBriyut says no, the government says no, and Hashem says you follow the experts, especially in times of crisis. And we want to have guests for the Seder, but we can't. We want to go out for a long walk. It's Nisan. We want to be able to say Birkat HaIlanot, the prayer on the blooming of the trees, of the vegetation. But we can't. We have to stay within 100 meters. It's all about control. It's all about the ability to restrict and restrain our usual habits. In this case, because that's what we need to do for our health. Yes, we want to daven with a minyan. We want to sit in a shir where we can have this interpersonal relationship. But here too, Hashem is testing us. Are we going to follow that? Are we going to maintain the discipline Misrad HaBriyut tells us? If we don't, we're not only disobeying them, but we really are going against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we're paying a price, and everybody will pay a price for that. And only some people are learning it only too late. And this is, I think, also for us, maybe Hashem is saying to us, you need to get back to discipline, because maybe when God willing, soon, B'karov, this will be over, maybe we'll have somewhat of a different discipline. Maybe we will have slowed down our life a little bit. Maybe we'll appreciate certain things a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it's essentially the same message that the matzah is sending to us, saying that there is a limit to what you can do, and there is a guideline and a discipline that you have to follow. That is what makes you Jewish. That is what makes you a faithful and believing Jew. That at some point, I put aside my own urges and wants and desires when Hashem tells me, Ad kan v'lo yoter. And that's the matzah. I hope that we shall pass this test just as ultimately we learned the meaning of the matzah. We got a new set of Aseret Dibrot, of Luchot, and it's been our struggle ever since to follow those Luchot, to follow those rules and regulations, and do so in a way that adds meaning to our own life, while at the same time telling Hashem that He created a very special and unique creation, a human being that knows when to act and knows when to stop. And that this unique Seder, I don't think we've had a Seder like this, honestly, since Pesach Mitzrayim. There hasn't been. There's some amazing stories of Sedarim during the Holocaust and the Inquisition and other times, but I don't think there's ever been, perhaps since, I think it's 3,332 years since that original Pesach Mitzrayim, and I don't think that there's been a Seder like it. So I hope that it will be something that we appreciate and will remember all our lives, and that will be intimate, but still something unique, and that next year we'll be together as a community, as a family, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take us from this Shibud Le'Geula and Afela L'Or Gadol. So I'm going to stop, and I respond to any questions. If anybody has something to ask, feel free. If not, everybody have a comment or question?
Thank you.
I also want to wish proper Mazel Tov on the engagement. Michael's out there somewhere, and it's a little bit difficult, but if anybody wants to ask something and you want to take the floor, you can for a minute or two.
By what?
Zoom falls apart.
Okay, if there's no questions or comments, then I thank everybody for joining together, and we should only meet happy occasions, even face to face.
Amen.
Amen.
Everybody.
See you and all the family.
Yeah, right.